excited to be here on the stage, sharing my experiences. And big round of thanks to Analytics India magazine for putting together this forum, which allows us to share our experiences and learn from each other. Analytics is still a small ecosystem and closely knit, so it's good to all come together and see how our companies or we as individuals have evolved over a period of time. So today I'm going to talk to you about a decision that we took about 3 years ago, and it was a very conscious choice we made about how we want to take the company forward. We, of course, had our own trajectory around the services side, which was playing out just fine. But when we started looking at some of the mega trends and what we foresee in the future, we said it was time to take a pause and look at how we want to move forward. And so I'm going to share this journey with you and hope you can take some tidbits from this journey, because every company has its own path. But hopefully some of these experiences will resonate if you are at some of those crossroads. And I would love to have an opportunity to chat with you offline, whether it's over a coffee or something. Really learn from your experiences and see how we can continue to grow this ecosystem. So we call our strategy as ProductFirst Strategy, and I'll talk a little bit in more detail, but let's rewind the clock, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, or even 25 years ago. Our ecosystem has evolved in the following way, and these are some of the unicorn companies that you see here. And right around 2010, 11, a lot of the companies that you see before that were in pure play services. And whether it's the likes of the Infosys, TCS, who paved the path for the global delivery model, then came the BPO/KPO industry, and they really leveraged the good, I would say, vibes left by the IT industry. And then we saw emergence of some of the unicorns. And the last unicorn in our analytics space is really Mu Sigma, who managed to break that barrier. But if you look to the right of Mu Sigma, most of the companies here are actually from the product space. So what you hear in the industry today is more about products, and with the penetration of internet, I think more and more of these unicorns are now being developed outside of the US, and I hope to see many more names to the right-hand side. And so clearly from a mega trend point of view, we see that the products is where the real play is. Having said that, we ourselves were going through a transition to understand where we want to be. So there were a couple of things that were thrown at us. Of course, the services industry is very linear. If you're at revenue X with a headcount Y, you want to grow to 2X, more or less you will have to have 2Y resources. And I think that model worked very well for the BPO and the IT industry. Analytics industry was a lot more knowledge-based. And more we started seeing that clients who bought into these extension teams in the past were now insourcing their analytics. So now you did not have the play of, hey, there are no mathematicians or statisticians available in the US, and hence, India was their best choice. But over a period of time, the industry has caught up. It's strategic. People have started insourcing analytics. The third aspect was in the services industry, as soon as you get into large contracts in the $1 million range, there is a lot of price pressure that starts coming in from the procurement department. And the market forces within India were also posing a lot of challenge in terms of whether it's the captive centers who really, I mean, operate primarily as cost centers, or some of these VC-funded companies like the Flipkarts or the Olas of the world. They have the ability to, of course, hire the talent at very different price points, and ended up disrupting the industry quite a bit for us. Although many people, who end up going to some of these VC-funded companies, I mean, a few, of course, roles are very, very glamorous, have a lot of, learning, but most of the people realize that, they were actually running the meat grinder built by somebody else. But by that time, for the services industry, the damage was already done by these VC-led companies, et cetera. So we were, at that crossroad and said, we don't want to be in this game of pure play services. What would be the best strategy? So we called our strategy as the product-first strategy, which meant we will not go into a customer unless we install a product which they use day in, day out. And around that, we don't mind adding services, but those services will ultimately have to get recoded into the product so that the product continues to grow. And that's really what our pivot was, to move into the product-first strategy. And of course, it also allows us to get more long-term commitments from our client, and the path is non-linear. So if we continue to, do well, this is something, you don't need to increase your headcount by same percentage if, you're looking at growing your revenue by a certain percentage. So it was time to go back to the drawing board to, really build our vision for the next 5 years. What would that future look like? And frankly, it was very exciting in the beginning to say, hey, you know what, we're going to put together this. But it really felt like this. A lot of notes were scribbled, a lot of statements were put together, and at the end, it didn't feel right. So we as leadership team would meet often, and ultimately, it turned out to be a 6-month journey. Every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., the core team will come together, and really what it boiled down to was who we truly are, right? What's the core? What's our DNA? And once we centered on that part, things started to fall very easily, because what happens is when you start crafting your vision statement, the thinking is you come up with these lofty statements, very aspirational stuff, but you also start to deviate from your DNA, saying, hey, I want to be the most innovative company in the world, et cetera, et cetera. But if the reality is, if you haven't looked at your DNA as to who you are as a team, as a company, you will never get there. So that exercise of identifying our core values, coming up with a purpose, articulating what the future would look like, and how we can communicate that internally as well as externally, became a big effort. But 6 months later, we came out, and we were all very clear what we wanted to do. Then came the next big effort, which was to really change the mindset of the organization from a services to a product mindset. A couple of examples, I like to talk about. When you are a services company, the words that get thrown around are customer satisfaction, customer delight. That's really where a lot of the conversations are. In a product mindset, we said we have to think beyond what customers have thought about. So we have to bring things to our customers what they may not have even imagined. And that requires, very different line of thinking. Internally, we were Very service-oriented folks, something came from the client, people will bend backwards to deliver on it. But moving into the product side, we realized what's more important is having that hacker mentality, the experimentation mentality. Don't be afraid of failures. Go try out things. Doesn't work, that's okay, even if it's half-baked, but take something to the market, listen to your customer base, bring it back into the product, and keep evolving the product. So then came, how do we organize ourselves? What are the things that we have to keep track of? Of course, there's a lot of things you have to keep track of. But this is something that, I borrowed from a forum which is called SaaS Boomi. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are representing the pure play product companies here? Quite a few handful. So, and I don't know how many of you have been part of this forum called SaaS Boomi, which is really a fantastic forum. I mean, you have to be of a certain size and you have to be in the product space to be part of this forum. But if you are not, I highly encourage you to attend some of their sessions. This is run purely by the founders and CEOs for the founders and CEOs. And they talk about, when you're taking a product into the market, these are the 3 things you should never lose sight of. Market segmentation. You have to be laser focused on who you are servicing. If you get greedy and try to be everything to everyone, yes, you may get a few clients in the beginning, but it will not scale. In fact, the idea is to keep getting more and more focused and really start saying no to many more things so that you can keep channeling your resources on the right things. So we had to, we started out with healthcare as the primary vertical, where when we initially started from an insurance point of view, that's like the whole, huge world. Then we said, okay, healthcare is our space. But even within healthcare, there are so many variants until it took us 6 months to finally say that, we are going to be the specialists in the Medicare ecosystem of the US, which, is really full of this publicly available healthcare data because it's run by the government. It has a lot of challenges around managing this data, mining this, and being able to, provide a lot of insights for the business. So net-net, we went from here all the way to a very, very narrow slice, and that's where we found, our true calling. Then the sales engine, you have to be very particular about how you're going to do sales. And I'll talk a little bit about, how there are so many different variations, and you have to pick the right sales engine for yourself. And customer success, yes, getting customers is very exciting, but then retaining them, and if you are in this product business, making sure that they renew their contracts with you becomes extremely important. Again, this is from one of the VCs, when we started looking into the product space. You have to decide, who you want to be. Okay, there are, they say there are 5 ways to build a $100 million business, and you really need to know, are you a rat, are you a rabbit, are you a deer? Are you building an elephant? Are you hunting an elephant? Or are you hunting whales? Because each of these requires a different strategy, and they're all very valid, but you have to know exactly where you are. So we thought we were actually hunting deers, but pretty soon the feedback that we started getting from the market and the price point that we were operating at, we realized we were actually hunting elephants. It took us about 6 months. And the the way you design your product, the way you organize your sales, the way you organize your marketing, the way you, set up your customer success, everything revolves around what you choose as your focus. So with Elephant, the product was in the $100,000 range. The good part was it did not need an approval beyond director or at the best vice presidents. So we knew exactly who to go after. We were not, second guessing after some time. I mean, it was very clear to us, these are the people who will buy because at this price point, they can easily sign off. Our market was always US because, that's the market we understand the best. We did spend some time in India. Great market, but you have to be a very different kind of a player to really operate in the Indian market. Interestingly, when you are in the product business, your cost of sales actually comes down significantly. And we were able to drive all of our sales, not a single salesperson in the US. Everything happens out of our Bangalore office. The team works the evening shifts. When you're in product business, it's not relationship-based selling. People are very open to having these demos. And after the demo, it moves to pretty much a very binary stage, whether it's a yes or a no. From a marketing point of view, yes, I mean, you have to do content marketing, but not to the extent what you would normally do if you were a rat or a rabbit. Just enough so you get your name out, but being at the trade shows, making your brand known to the ecosystem, and after 2 or 3 trade events, people start recognizing you, and interestingly, the sales moves from outbound to inbound queries. So that's another great experience we got out of really identifying who we were really, really hunting. And that was the birth of our first product. Like I said, we went after the healthcare industry, the Medicare ecosystem in the US. All the baby boomers have just crossed that 65 mark where their healthcare is taken care by the US government, and it's a highly regulated industry. Being a regulated industry, the government releases lots and lots of data, and there's a method to this whole madness, and we latched on to that entire, yearly decision-making cycle, and today, we pretty much have brought in huge amount, last 6 years of publicly available healthcare data into our platform, and our clients subscribe to it because we are able to demonstrate how we can drive profitable growth for their business. And this is a subscription platform. Literally, I mean, we can get people up and running in as little as sometimes 2 days to, at the best, 2 weeks, and they, really, really find this a very valuable proposition. Very fortunate to have, many big logos in a very short period of time. I mean, what used to take us like 6 months to 9 months minimum for closing business has actually come down to, on an average, 6 to 8 weeks. In some cases, we've been surprised that, within 2 weeks, we have actually, from the start of the conversation, we've been able to close the business. So the list continues to grow. Very, very pleased with the strategy that we put together 3 years ago, and it continues to. So our journey has started with healthcare. We have a mature product. We continue to, add new capabilities into the product, because once you have a product in the market, paying customers, you get a lot of your learning from the customers themselves, and it just becomes a self-fulfilling engine. Another vertical we are building our products for are the energy and utilities. It's a deregulated industry in the US. It's again going through some major shift right now, and that's creating opportunities for us. Just to give you an example, here we can only buy electricity from Bescom, but in the deregulated states in the US, you can actually buy your electricity from multiple suppliers. And one of the very interesting things is how water got branded 10, 15 years ago. We all thought water is water, but today you see it coming in many different packages, and you have very different feeling depending on the kind of bottle that you pick up. Similarly, that transition is happening with the electrons. You think this light bulb is a light bulb, you don't care where the electricity is coming from, but people do care about it, right? I mean, is this running on clean energy, or is it running on fossil fuels, all that. So there's a lot of branding that is going on around the electrons, how you consume it. So we hope we get to take advantage of that. And also products we are building in the retail and consumer goods side, playing to our strength in the marketing analytics space. And it's not easy. As we made the shift from the services to product mindset, every day, you are thrown with different challenges. And as entrepreneurs, there are more sleepless nights than you have those peaceful nights, but that's what we signed up for, right? So when it's you against you on those sleepless nights, I found one of my friends in this book, written by Ben Horowitz. Not sure if, how many of you seen this book or read this book? A few. I highly encourage you to, get a copy of this book, because every time, I go through that phase, this is by my bedside, and there's always a chapter that I can relate to. Maybe 6 months ago, I read that chapter and I didn't find it as useful, but as the book has not changed, but as I keep evolving, there are a lot of wonderful lessons about running a company, running a product company in this book. So this is my last slide. I mean, we are really, really excited about this journey. We've come a long way in the last 3 years, and always looking for, smart people who want to be part of this journey. Of course, heart comes first. If you bring heart and smart, we have a lot of canvas to paint. We'll make mistakes, we'll experiment, but that's okay. It'll, give us a strong gut, and then we'll go write our own luck. And that's how we look at it. Yep. So. We have few minutes, more minutes, so would be
Quick
happy to.
Quick questions, and please keep it brief. Thank you.
I see a hand there.
We have one here.
Hello.
Yep.
This is Siddheshwar Jain from HP, and very good presentation. I really enjoyed it. So as I understand, healthcare industry is a very people-centric industry, and whatever products you create, it has to be created based on the people service and serving the mankind at the center.
Yeah.
So any innovations, like you changed the mindset from service industry to product-centric industry. So any challenges what you faced during that process, and a few innovations which you would like to talk about, which basically been accepted and been taken by the people in a very positive way. Thank you.
Sure. So let me talk about from, I think what you were referring to is how is this change really ultimately helping the members or the beneficiaries of the healthcare system who ultimately are really wedded into it. I'll give you a few ways how analytics or how our products are helping. People 65 and older, you want to make sure their behaviors about managing their own health are monitored through all the touch points that they have with the hospital or the insurance companies. And being able to predict what they are likely to experience, and if you can find a way for them to avoid hospitalization or avoid a fall, that's where analytics has really helped out, because we garner a lot of that behavioral data, and we are able to predict who is likely to come to the hospital, and if you can proactively manage that case so that the hospitalization doesn't occur. That's one example.
We'll just take one more question. Just one more.
Sure.
Hi, Arvind. Thanks for the talk. It was really inspiring. So my name is Ashwin. I work for Rugam Solutions. It's a retail analytics company. So my question to you is, you mentioned that you're building a product in the retail space, right? But then there is so much variability that happens in the retail space. And the classic argument is always that products are very robust and services are always flexible. So how do you find that sweet spot between having something robust, but also something that is flexible?
So let me see if I understand your question correctly. So you're trying to understand what's the right balance between the products and the services?
Between the robustness and the flexibility, yes.
From a retailer point of view or from a consumer point
No,
of view?
since you're talking about having a product-first strategy.
Yes. Okay. So let me digest that a little bit more. See, product, what's the product delivering to the customer? The product is delivering value through something that was earlier a service. And what you carved out is a value where they can get the same thing at a significantly lower price point. Either that is by giving them the speed of execution, or whether it is the price point. But that to me is a constant journey where anything that is services ultimately will become part of the product. And that's how we think about it. But I'm not sure if I really get your full question. Maybe you and I can probably chat on this a little offline.
Sure.
But our journey is always to say, take the services, put it into products, so that we can keep delivering more and more value to the business.
Sure. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, we'll have to wrap up the Q&A. You can ask him questions. He's definitely going to be around here for a few more minutes.
Sure.
Is that okay?
All right.
Thank you so much. Big round of
Thank you,
applause.
gentlemen.